Uttishtata jagrata prapya varan nibodhata. As Swamiji translated this well-known words of the Upanishads, rise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. The topic today is lucidly awake. And who can be a better icon of awakening than the Buddha? There's a prayer found in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. How long must we remain enmeshed in fruitless dreams? Are you indeed awake? Then do not longer sleep. Thick on you lies the gloom, fraught with a million woes. Rise, dreamer, from your dreams, and slumber not again. Shine forth, O shining one, and with thy shafts of light, slay thou the blinding dark, our only Savior, thou. We seek deliverance at thy feet. Edmund Arnold, who wrote the life of Buddha, his work was modified a little by Girish Chandra Ghosh. And this is printed in the Gospel. This is lucidly awake. This is a very profound subject. And I'll try to be lucid. Briefly, it's an hyper-awake state. The state of mind is distinct from the waking and the dreaming and the deep sleep states. This is the state of continuous, you can say, awareness, wisdom, and freedom. This is the state. I acknowledge that this title was taken from a book called Lucidly Awake by George Feuerstein. It's a book on mindfulness and the potential of human consciousness. I took only the title because I found it was so appropriate. So to understand what is to be lucidly awake, we need to look at it from different angles. The first angle is, of course, lucid dreaming. This is a very old observation in all cultures, but it was thoroughly studied by a Dutch psychiatrist who wrote a book, The Study of Dreams, in 1913. And this word took its time to catch up. Lucid dreaming is when you know you are dreaming. It is a state of rapid eye movement, REM, which is called the dream state. Almost all of us, at one time or the other in our lives, we do experience lucid dream. There are some who experience but don't really know that they have been lucidly dreaming. There are some minds for whom lucid dreaming is natural. And some minds, of course, they close their eyes and fall asleep. Of course, that's not bad. It's good. But being lucidly awake, generally we have in the mind dreams tumbling one after the other. In lucid dreaming, there is a kind of a spaciousness between each thought or each image that appears in the mind. And that spaciousness plus the ability to watch the mind is remarkable. It has been found to be very therapeutic. It's like a child who's afraid of dreams and tells his mother, I am afraid of all these dreams. And the mother says, oh, they are just dreams. And the next time the child goes to sleep and he sees those weird dreams, something pops out, oh, they're just dreams. This is the beginning of lucid dreaming. Later on, as we can train ourselves, and there have been practices to train ourselves, we can simulate dreams, we can re-script dreams, we can dream within a dream. It has also been found that lucid dreaming is extremely effective and therapeutic where post-traumatic stress disorders are concerned, where things like stress and depression can be eliminated to a great extent. And today we have workshops teaching lucid dreaming. This has also been extensively studied by researchers, neurologists. Because when we dream, the rapid eye movement, the eyes move. And subjects are put in these fMRI machines, and the machine tracks the movements of the eyes. And the subjects are told, the moment you awake from these dreams, when you start lucidly dreaming, you shift your eyes, both your eyes, from left to right and right to left. And that's what they did. And they found that there is a level of dreaming that is showing in the machines, and yet there is this additional movement of the eyes. Neurology is interested because it shows a remarkable area of the brain which we have not yet known, and is trying to access those areas. Another interesting study of lucid dreaming and its popularity comes from the practice of yoga nidra, what is called in Hatha Yoga, the yoga nidra. It has become so popular because people are all stressed. What you do is lie down in shavasana, that is the corpse-like pose, relaxed, and flex one limb at a time or one finger at a time and relax it. And this goes on every part of the body. You flex it and relax it. And let your body sink, as it were, in the flow. Then you become aware of your breath. There is also a short mantra or a short wish that you repeat while doing this. What happens is the body becomes completely relaxed, almost heavy. And then after a while, it starts feeling light. You inside are awake. You are, as it were, guiding your thoughts, because now the body is not obstructing the thought processes of the mind. And this lucidity has also been found to be very therapeutic. It's a remarkable state. It's a state between waking and dreaming. Yes, you can kind of stand between these two states and have a glimpse of both these states. This has become popular in today's world. There is also something called the dream yoga. That's wonderful. Everybody would like to dream. Everybody would like to be yogis. Yeah, so we combine both. But this is a very esoteric type of yoga which is found in Tibetan Buddhism. It's a combination of many traditions of tantric and yogic, you can say, born traditions, Buddhist traditions in Tibet. And today what we have is a lot of monks, Tibetan monks, are actively not only practicing but preaching this form of yoga. They say there are two minds. One is, as we know, the monkey mind, the common mind that keeps on jumping about. And there is something called the wisdom mind. That's very lucid. So the dream yoga is getting popular. Moreover, like in Yoga Nidra, we also can modify the dream contents. We can then modify the person who dreams, the dreamer. And this is a very kind of highly esoteric process which one needs to be initiated in. And the masters say it's not a simple initiation. It is more of a transmission, a direct transmission from one wisdom mind to the dormant wisdom mind of the aspirant, which wakes the student up, the student's mind. So much for this. There's another remarkable, you can say, concept amongst the Native Americans here. You heard of, they call it the dream catcher. It's a talisman that is hung over the cradles of children. So the children will not get disturbed by nightmares. It's becoming popular all over the world. So it catches a dream. It's called a dream catcher. But it's really a very sophisticated concept, remarkable how these people would come to it. You can catch your dreams in your consciousness. And this is another dream catcher. In the philosophy of the Upanishads, especially in the older Upanishads of Brihad Aranyaka and the Chandogya, we find the descriptions of dream and deep sleep that really kind of unsettle our ordinary ideas of what is dreaming and what is sleeping. This is an ordinary act by living beings. But they take a metaphysical view of this ordinary act and take you to the highest realms of what it really is. So this is one of the things that India developed after years and years and years of studying dreams, of studying the waking state and studying the deep sleep state, as well as studying that which is beyond these three states. When we come down to, there is the original Yoga Nidra. As you said, we just said in Hatha Yoga there is something called Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra itself is a kind of oxymoron. Yoga is to be highly concentrated and aware and awake, and Nidra is sleep. Well, they're kind of contradictory. But the contradiction is only on the surface. Deep down, there is a kind of a convergence of both these states of yoga as well as nidra. In this, there is a sharp distinction made between the body, including the brain, and the higher mind. The very first references that we come across of yoga nidra is in the Mahabharata, in the very first book of the Mahabharata, where it describes that when Vishnu, he wants to take a nap, the quotation is, at the end of every great age, yuga, that causal ocean becomes the bed of Vishnu of immeasurable power, and from whose navel rises the lotus of creation. He, that is Vishnu, experiences yoga nidra under the influence of spiritual absorption. This is a personalized description of what happens between the two stages of creation and the next creation, the dissolution and creation, or evolution and involution. Swami Vivekananda has quoted this Nasadiya Sukta, which is found in the Rig Veda, which describes this state impersonally. Existence was not then, nor non-existence. The world was not, nor the sky beyond. What covered the mist? Of whom was that? What was in the depths of darkness thick? Death was not then, nor immortality. Night was neither separate from day, but motionless did that vibrate, alone, in its own glory. Beyond that, nothing did exist. Anidvatam swadaya. So it vibrated without vibration. That. Swami Vivekananda says that is that reality, which is in the state of, as it were, abeyance. This is the supreme state of yoga nidra. Of whose? Of Vishnu. Vishnu's body and mind, that is Ishvara's body and mind, or God's body and mind, is this creation. So when Vishnu awakens, creation takes place. It keeps on expanding. The body and mind of God is displayed here. And like when we sleep, and Vishnu also goes to sleep, he retracts the mind, which along with the body, and goes into a state of, let's say, higher consciousness. It's like the whole tree going back into a seed, ready to spring up once again into a tree. This is the spiritual state of yoga nidra. And as the Vedanta also says, which is corroborated by the sciences today, the microcosm and the macrocosm vibrate in the same key. If you know 1 grain of sand, you know all the sand in the universe. If this happens on a macrocosmic scale, it also happens on the microcosmic scale. Us, within us, we too go through the stages of dream and sleep, creation and dissolution every day. That's why it's called Nitya Pralaya in Vedanta. In the case of the macrocosm, it's called Pralaya, cyclic creation and dissolution. What is the example of kind of lucid awakening? We'll come down to now what is lucid awakening. One time Swami Premananda was sitting and meditating in the old shrine at Belur Mutt in the corner. As it was getting late for the food offerings, the pujari, the worshipper, comes and sees the Swami sitting down there, thinking that probably the Swami has fallen asleep. He takes a lamp and holds it in front of his face in order to awaken this Swami Premananda. Swami Premananda slowly opens his eyes, and the pujari asks him, Maharaj, did you fall asleep? So Swami Premananda says, he broke out in a sweet song, I am awakened and will sleep no more. I am awake in the state of yoga. O Divine Mother, I have given back thy mystic sleep to thee and have put sleep to sleep. This is what is called lucid awakening. Let's look at it from another standpoint. One time, a little girl, a shepherdess, had taken a flock, and the flock was grazing on the Himalayan hillsides, and she fell into a slumber under the shade of trees. She dreamed. And in a dream, she saw Buddha preaching his sermons to a group of yellow-robed monks. She was watching the dream, as it were. And then Buddha looks at her. She's still dreaming. When you call me with devotion, I shall come. And she awoke, filled with bliss. She remembered her dream, and then she concentrated her mind on Buddha, repeating that promise that Buddha made to her in her dream, that he will come when she calls him. And he did come. And when she saw him, she was amazed. She said, Lord, am I dreaming? Saying, yes, you are dreaming. When will I awaken? And the Buddha says, who is the dreamer? And a flood of light, as it were, pours into her. And suddenly she snaps awake. She's awakened. When she returns to the village, people ask her, what happened? You look transformed. She says, yes, I had a dream that I was dreaming. And the Lord Buddha woke me up. This is what our minds at times so deceptive. Vedanta says we are living in a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. Whether this waking stage is a dream or the dream state is waking, Sri Ramakrishna in one of his parables, he speaks about a farmer who after many years had a child, and again after some years, his child passed away. And the mother was so distraught and she was weeping and weeping. And that poor man, not shedding a drop of tear. The wife says, you're so hard-hearted. Just one son we had and he died, and see. So you see what happened was, last night I was dreaming a dream that I was a king and I had 4 princes, and they were growing up, they were being trained, and one by one they died and the dream broke. Now I don't know whether to mourn for those princes or mourn for this one this child. So Sri Ramakrishna, he was a Gyani farmer. A farmer. He had made no distinction between the waking and the dream state. Is this possible? Like the girl awakening up? Yes. Sri Ramakrishna speaks about something called Swapna Siddha. Like there are many various categories like Kripa Siddha, the attaining perfection through grace, Hatat Siddha, sudden attaining of sudden perfection. But here Sri Ramakrishna said there is something called Swapna Siddha. One attains knowledge through dreams. Now, it's not the ordinary mind that attains this kind of thing. Generally, we see all these dreams and, sometimes the rubbish dreams also, they come. Sri Ramakrishna says, dreams about gods and goddesses, about receiving a mantra, are real. And there are many cases where one receives the mantra, one sees the dreams of gods and goddesses, and there is an awakening. Something within breaks. What is that something? Ignorance breaks. And one attains knowledge. But the only problem is, it has to be kind of, again, practiced in the waking state. That's what the teachers of yoga say. Okay, you've received something. Now you've got to have this thing here. There was a long time back. I knew that Swami personally for many years, and a very lovable Swami. His initiation was very strange. It was in old Rangoon. And he goes to Swami Yatishwarananda, who had gone there on a visit. He says, I'll accept you as a guru if you tell me what mantra I have received in my dream. So Yatishwarananda says, okay, give me an hour. So Yatishwarananda meditated, and then he called that young man saying, this is your mantra. Saying, yes. And he prostrated in front of Yatishwarananda and accepted him. As we know, those in the Ramakrishna tradition, Swami Yatishwarananda was a disciple of Swami Brahmananda, and later he became one of the vice presidents. He was also in Germany before World War II, and he fled Europe and he came to the United States, and he lived here in this center, Hollywood, for some time. So, just kind of give you an example of Swapna Siddhi. Generally, we see certain things in a dream, and there's a kind of mind is very kind of quirky. It takes things, those kind of dreams or something that we've seen as absolutely real without testing it, whether they are authentic or no. And we may go through life for maybe some years before these misconceptions are dismissed. So some of the misconceptions about lucid awakening and lucid dreams comes in. There is a state between the waking and the dream, the deep sleep state. That is, just as you are falling asleep, the interim state is called hypnagogic state. It is in this stage where you see dreams as it were floating from the periphery of your consciousness, and one is this hypnagogia is a kind of a state where you are aware you are now being slowly swamped by these thoughts and dreams, and you don't have the urge or even the power to push them away. This state is also called hypnagogic hallucinations. It's a type of hallucination. They come and then you fall asleep. Yes. Similarly, there's a mirror state, almost mirroring that state, hypnopompic state. When you are waking up, you emerge from deep sleep and you're just going to emerge again back to the waking state. That also is another state, but here the mind is very rational. We have emotions, of course, but it is trying to make sense of surroundings. It becomes aware of itself, and as it slowly opens its eyes, it establishes the connections that are around, that one is used to. The hypnagogic and hypnopompic state. There is also something called hypnotism. It's a very strange state. You are aware and not aware at the same time. Contrary to what many people think, hypnotism is a very state is very concentrated. The mind is very focused. But the focus is on the hypnotist's suggestion. While the body is so relaxed, it will carry out the hypnotic's suggestion. There is also amnesia. There is sleep paralysis, as it were, amnesia, but the mind is awake. There is, however, a catch to this. Suppose the hypnotist will suggest you harming yourself or harming others. He might say, okay, now you go to the window, you'll go and you jump out of the window. You won't. Something snaps you out of that trance. It has been found that there is a kind of a sentinel consciousness that snaps you out of that hypnotic, that keeps watching the whole scene, snaps you out. That also is one. There is another, I remember one Swami in Mayavati when I was there telling me about another young Swami who had just joined the order. And as you know, we do a kind of a community meditation according to what Swamiji had wanted us to. So after a while of sitting for meditation, this young man used to fall asleep. So the Swami, he used to prod him up. Wake up, wake up. This young man was a very learned young man in the doctrines of yoga. So you say, don't disturb me, I'm meditating. Saying, no, you are not meditating, you are falling asleep. I want to wake you up. No, you don't understand. So do you explain what you mean? You are meditating with the conscious mind. I am using the lucid mind, that is between the states of the conscious and the unconscious, to meditate. In that way, I can quickly attain the states of yoga. And then he used to close his eyes and again try to meditate, and again he used to fall asleep. And not a kind of ordinary falling asleep. His body used to simply crumble. And he used to lean so far down, but there was some consciousness that used to pull him up again. And straighten. And again, the body used to go flaccid and again. There is, as it were, some consciousness that is trying to straighten the body. Keep the guy, again it goes. So this is also, there is similar, like I say, it's not similar to lucid awakening, but there are so many kind of similarities here. When we are sick or kind of sick with ill with fever, when the fever is extremely high, 103, 104. Oh. You know what happens is, this whole external world seems like a kind of a mirage. It seems as if the whole thing is floating. You have no interest at all in this, and you are as if you are disconnected from this. That fever somehow has made you disconnected with the external world, and you have a kind of a floating sensation. I think most of us have experienced this. I have experienced it many times. There is also something called conscience. Or religions, they love all this kind of stuff. That is the voice of God. See, when you're doing something, that voice, God tells you not to. And all the major religions, they speak of it. That's the voice of God. But what were they doing for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years before religions even commanded this kind of voice of God in their favor? No. Well, this was always there in a human mind. We don't know about animal minds because there have not been any studies. But there is a study in human subjects where the anterior prefrontal cortex is, you can say, targeted with this idea of having a conscience. As it were, you are there and you have a kind of an inhibition about doing certain things or not doing certain things. In psychology also, old psychology of course, we had something called a super ego that kind of keeps a track on you. When it is found that when this part of the brain is injured, we lose all inhibitions. There is no voice of God inside. We'll do whatever we feel like. There is no thing pulling you back and trying to hold you. But generally this is an ingrained idea, or through studies or through the social mind that we have collected over there, about certain norms that should be followed. And this is subconscious. So whenever you step out of track, something tells you that you haven't done right. Okay. So this is conscience. And there is a kind of as if there is somebody there inside speaking to us. There's another kind of very popular, current of thought that has come due to this science fiction film called Inception, where a person gets into a dream, enters into another subconscious mind and manipulates it. So the one person entering into another person's dream and manipulating those dreams. This, of course, is science fiction, but not all science fictions. I wonder, most of the science fiction have some kernel of truth, or maybe they are projecting something which will take place, or there is a possibility. In the higher states of yoga, this is possible, where you can enter into the dream of another, or in the dream or state or the subconscious state of another, and modify it. We don't know how far people in the ordinary states of consciousness are able to do that, but it's possible in the higher states of yoga, sure. Not only that, in fact, in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you find Sri Ramakrishna traveling from Dakshineshwar in his subtle body, taking the subtle body of Swami Vivekananda, who was in Calcutta and asleep, taking it to Dakshineshwar and interacting there with them, teaching him many things. And again, resending Swami Vivekananda's subtle body there inside. So in dream yoga, as we had mentioned, there is the monkey mind, the common mind, the mind that we are used to, and also the wisdom mind. So in this lucid waking, what happens is you are aware that you are awake, you are operating. It's like you are aware that you are dreaming. In lucid awakening, is you are aware that you are awake. We'll come down to the finer, you can say, aspects of it. This lucid mind in dream yoga comes away from all the trammels of the ordinary mind. Where does this dream yoga's wisdom mind reside? In every mind. What is its characteristics? Its characteristics is, according to the Tantric Buddhist tradition, it is when this mind is becoming formed for the individual, when the subtle elements of space and air and water and fire and earth come and impinge on this mind, the wisdom mind. And that is what makes it gross and enter into the body. So with certain bija mantras, mystic syllables, one can, through repetition, ascend to that wisdom mind. That is lucid, limpid, clear. You can see that the mind is an object and you are the subject. You are just completely detached from your mind. And in this state, you can not only re-script, modify your dream mind, the monkey mind, but also re-script your waking mind. It's a tremendous power that one has. You can re-script your waking life. These are extremely esoteric things, and people can transport themselves from one place to another by re-scripting their waking minds. But of course, it needs a lot of training, and we need good teachers to do that. When we speak about a lucid mind, it's always, in that mind, there is something called the waking and the dream. It's always, the mind itself has to become lucid. And how does it happen? It can happen actually anytime. It happens sometimes unannounced. I remember hearing someone say, well, I was sitting down just doing the ordinary things of life, and suddenly, as it were, the mind split into a subject and object. And the subject mind was viewing the objective mind. It's not like the schizophrenic split. No. It's as if the higher mind is watching the lower mind and saying, what happens? Oh, you're saying this? Well, this is not yours. This cannot be yours. Oh, you picked up all these things and repeating it like a parrot. It's not yours. So it is this stage where, it's a birthplace of mythology. It's a birthplace of creativity. So I asked that Swami, say, then how did you kind of realign yourself? Oh, just truth. Truth realigned me from between the common mind, the objective mind, and the subjective mind. So I asked, are you aware of it all the time? Are you lucidly awake all the time? Saying whenever there is the mind is whipped by all these rough waves, it's kind of smothered for a while. But then, once those waves subside, it's there again. So it is in this lucid mind that one can have lucid meditation. Swami Vivekananda in his Raj Yoga speaks about something called the power of reflection. He says, let me quote, "We all know that there is a power of the mind called reflection. I am talking to you, and at the same time, I am standing aside as it were a second person and knowing and hearing what I am talking. You work and think at the same time, and yet a portion of your mind, as it were, can stand aside, as it were, and witness the whole thing. It's very common. And as one keeps on doing meditation, this power develops tremendously. You, as it were, kind of, you're watching yourself speaking. If you can close your eyes and try to visualize yourself listening to me, and I can visualize myself speaking to you. It's done. I mean, it only needs a little practice. But this is just the initial stage. There's a power in the mind that we can detach itself. Swami Vivekananda says further, how if you have to develop this, what do? The power of the mind has to be concentrated and turned back upon itself. And as it reaches down, you will know, Swami Vivekananda says, whether you have a soul which is permanent, whether there is a God, and you will know the secrets of this universe. It is here which what the Tibetan Buddhists call the wisdom mind. There is a part of the mind which unravels the whole secrets of this universe and about yourself also. So this power of the mind of seeing yourself objectively, seeing ourselves objectively, can be enhanced through the practice of meditation. And this is done. Swami Turiyananda, who for many years, who also, of course, did come to Los Angeles. He was the brother disciple of Swami Vivekananda. He stayed for many years in San Francisco and Shanti Ashram. He used to observe his mind during the waking state. He used to keep on observing his mind when the mind used to dream. And he used to also observe his mind when it used to go to sleep. He's saying, I knew exactly where the mind is going in deep sleep. Imagine. So all this time you are just talking about lucid waking and lucid dreaming. There's something called lucid deep sleep as well. And it's kind of wonderful. This throws everything out of kilter. So there is an aspect, a higher aspect of the mind that can transcend these waking and dream and deep sleep and the intermediate states also. What is that? In the Kathopanishad it's called Ajasravaktra Chetasa, the consciousness which is unflickering. There is a consciousness that does not flicker. Of course, the Buddhist Shanika Vigyanvadis, those who hold the doctrine of momentariness, they say that it flickers. Vedanta says no, it doesn't flicker. It's unflickering, as the Upanishad says. What is this unflickering stage of consciousness? Well, this is what is called the wisdom mind or the higher mind, what is called in yoga as super consciousness or super mind. In most of us, this is closed. The doors are closed, though this mind is integral in everyone. actually our attention is diverted outside, not somewhere there behind. And as I say, knock and it shall be opened unto you. Well, we should go and do some knocking. And as we keep on, you can use your head to knock, you can use your elbow, you can use your fist, you can use your knee, you can use anything, but somehow break that door. And when it opens, you can enter into the higher realms within yourself. You can not only see yourself objectively, at the world of course, you can see the whole universe objectively. It's a tremendous state. We are speaking about the Yoga Nidra of Vishnu, where when the whole universe goes down into a seed form, Vishnu, as it were, lies down on the bed of the causal ocean of Maya, retracts his consciousness. Well, we can do that. And how do we? Is that all just mythology or just kind of, Mahabharata at times, we have some kind of stupendous things and sometimes silly things, and sometimes you wonder whether this is just mythology or just stories. No, they are not. Everything that is written has been true. Verified, this state has been verified in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, where he speaks about Bhavamukha. It's a state between the absolute and the relative consciousness. It's a threshold. That person can see both the absolute consciousness, that is attributeless, and which is Sat and Chit and Ananda, the Nirguna Brahman, and the Saguna Brahman. It's like standing there and partaking of both these realities. No ordinary yogi can experience this in its extreme aspect. Only the avatars can. Because the avatars identify themselves with the whole of the cosmic mind. And they identify it in such a way that they feel this whole cosmic mind is my mind. And at the same time, they can see that state of supreme consciousness beyond the ripples of creation, preservation. So this supreme state of Yoga Nidra, of Vishnu, of the avatars, can be in a very, very small way experienced by all of us, if we try hard enough. This is called lucid awakening. You awaken. You awaken to your own reality of a higher mind, your higher consciousness. You awaken to the reality of the nature of this universe. You awaken to the nature of Ishvara, of reality. These three entities becomes completely revealed. And like Swami Vivekananda says, rise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. This is awakening. This is the supreme state where all of us in this life, if you don't do it now, you'll get another chance. It's better to do it now. So how do we awaken ourselves? Well, go to the ones who are awakened. And here it is, you have the best place to go. Sri Ramakrishna, he is already standing there on the threshold of the absolute and the relative. So if you approach Sri Ramakrishna, you approach that state. And Sri Ramakrishna looks ordinary, looks like that, sitting down as if doesn't know anything. Don't get fooled by appearances. Sri Ramakrishna is lucidly awake to all of us, to what we are doing and we are not doing. Let us hear his call and approach Him for awakening. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.